You support Donald Trump,
Yes, sir.
and why is that?
Mostly for me, it's his border policy. That's the main thing for me.
Okay, which border policy?
Specifically, the way he's handling the illegal immigration and then the tighter border itself, making the border more secure. You said earlier when I was watching, according to what you have seen, you saw statistics that say that under Joe Biden, that crossings were on the lower side, but from what I've read, Trump has had the lower crossings, and so I'm just interested on specifically, I guess, where we're getting our sources from and why they're contradictory.
Customs and Border Protection. I'm referencing the daily border crossings at the end of the Biden-Harris administration as compared to the Trump administration at the very end.
Okay, so the daily at the end of the okay, I got you.
Yeah,
So
does it
the
make
one I was
sense?
looking at was total crossings over the course of those years.
Yes, yes, and I agree that there was more overall crossings under the Biden administration comparative to the Trump administration. I have various factors to explain that don't relate to the Biden-Harris administration causing that, but that doesn't change the reality that at the very end of the administration, this was true. And the reason why I specifically bring up the end of the administration is because people say, I'll make the point for you. Do you believe? How do you determine that there's a secure border?
For so, just for this is anecdotal for me, but I would say also I'll give you policy or whatever. But for me, anecdotally, I worked the border for 12 months, and so I saw firsthand like the what it looks like on an unsecured border because I was there during its unsecured period between 20 and 21, like right at the change of the
20,
presidency.
20 and 21.
Yeah,
So,
right
so
at right at
I,
the
I
change
just I just want to
between
let you know
Trump and
in
Biden.
2020 Trump was president.
Yeah, I'm saying I was there from 20 to 20 like through 21.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I saw like the change over time, type of stuff. So, but for me, a secure border would be defined as a border that does allow legal crossings, 100%. I'm not anti-immigration at all, and also secures it from illegal and predatory crossings, if that
Okay,
makes
okay.
sense.
So to clarify, if there was a greater level of crossings in which had people who are undocumented, you're saying that's evidence of the border being less secure.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
You're saying more people who are undocumented coming to the country means the
Hmm.
border is less secure.
I would say so. Yes.
Okay, so to clarify, at the end of Biden's administration, there were less border crossings at the end of Trump's administration, his first administration. At the end of Trump's first administration, did he have a secure border?
I would say no because I was there, so I can see it on that it was not as secure as I would have liked it to be, but we were trying to secure it.
So it
Um,
wasn't secure?
no, 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 definitely not. No, there just wasn't enough manpower to complete the task. It's just the fact of the matter.
So why couldn't Trump, if it was his policy that led to this, cause there to be a secure border by the end of his administration in his
It
first
just
term?
needed time. It just needed time.
More than his first term?
Yes, 100%. Yes, yes. It's a very big undertaking. While President Biden didn't do a whole lot in terms of actually making a great effort to secure the border, I don't totally put that on him. And um, I will say because I do find it annoying that Donald Trump was trying to build the border wall, and then President Biden he rolled it right back. I found that quite humorous in a way, but so with President Trump, he had 4 years, which you can say is a lot of time, but it's very difficult to incentivize people to work the border. Quite frankly, it's a very difficult task. It's very strenuous, and it needs a lot more budgeting. And I think Donald Trump was making the right choices. He was trying to give it more budget. He was trying to secure it with the wall. He was creating jobs by for like construction workers to raise up the wall and everything. He was trying really hard. Maybe not really hard. Okay, granted, he could have done better, but I think he certainly tried a lot harder than during the Biden. Excuse me. I think he did better than the government did during Biden's administration. And when I refer to Trump or Biden, I
Yeah, but
refer
like
to
in
their
what
entire.
way? Like what policy of his do you like?
I can't really go into more than what I've already said. Like he was trying to fund it more. he was trying to fund because of the border patrol specifically. So
Then
there
why
was
do you
a when I
undermine the
was there.
bipartisan border bill that was conservative leaning?
Explain. I'm not familiar.
He called for people in Congress to undermine the bipartisan border bill, which was acknowledged by Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and many other
What
Republicans. James Langford, who helped
I
co-author the
won't
bill,
I
was a
won't be able
Trump-endorsed Republican.
I wouldn't be able to comment on that because I'm not familiar with the bill and I'm not familiar like what it entailed. So
It would increase the
um
amount of people who are working at the border in terms of border agents, increase the amount of immigration judges to make the asylum process go faster. It would have helped us build more wall.
so
I
what
actually disagree with a lot of the aspects of the bill because it was incredibly conservative leaning, but
right.
it was a conservative win, and Donald Trump undermined the bill, which kind of contradicts his main message that he just wanted to
So
get like fixed for the border because that was an
mhm.
incredibly good bill from his perspective.
Right, but what else did that? So the thing about bills that a lot of people, especially in debates, may undermine or leverage to their advantage. I'm not accusing you of doing such a thing, but I just don't know. So what else was in the bill that might have caused Donald Trump to not want to pass that bill? That's my question.
He didn't want to pass the bill because he didn't want Democrats to look good. He said it was because of the foreign assistance aspect of the bill, but they separated the assistance aspect of the bill from the border bill. There's a solo standalone border bill, and they undermined that one and didn't vote for it. But they passed the foreign assistance by itself. So
Right.
it was
I would
clearly
have
not
to.
about the foreign assistance, and it was about the bipartisan border bill. And it was specifically to
Right.
undermine that so that the Democrats did not get a win on the border because Donald Trump didn't want to, not be able to, he didn't want to like be able to not talk about like the immigration and border. He wanted to be able to run on it as an issue.
I could see that. I'm not gonna seat on that because I don't really know the extent of the bill. I'd have to go read the entirety of the bill to see, and read the situation because I'm not familiar with what you're talking about. But when I was on the border, like I said, toward the end of the Trump administration and into the Biden administration, I could see the government as a whole, right, uh, going in a direction that I thought was the right way, such as bring up the wall, increase it. I saw a massive increase in recruitment for the Customs and Border Patrol on the southern border. I will say the northern border, the Canadian border, at that time was being downsized because of the severity of the southern border. And in fact, in order to get in the Customs and Border Patrol, the northern border is considered like a unicorn sort of cush assignment because in order to do it, there was a time period. I don't know if it still is, but in order to get assigned to the northern border, you had to serve on the southern border in some capacity for I think it was 2 years when I was there. Could be different now. I couldn't attest to that anymore. But just what I anecdotally could say at the time. So with Donald Trump and the border again, I mean, the bill that you mentioned, I can't talk much on that, but in modern day, right? So Donald Trump has this is going to be a controversial one, but I'm really not pro defensive action. I'm pro offensive action in terms of state defense, and I believe that Donald Trump's missions, I guess you could say his talks with Mexico to include potential military incursions into cartels, which to clarify right now has been going on. The CIA and DEA has been doing these things for like the last 15 years, but Donald Trump was specifically mentioning sending in actual military contingencies to counteract cartel activity, specifically activities and assassination activities. So for me, it's a very important topic because while I was on the border for that little over 12 months, I had there was a gentleman. His name was Michael Krentz, and
Okay, okay.
I
Can we talk about like a reason why you support Donald Trump's policy, maybe?
I think I've said just about covered like the whole border. Have I not been clear enough?
Yeah, I understand that like you want the better conditions for the border. Like here, maybe I'll ask you
Hmm.
specific questions. Would you support or can you give me a reason why you'd want to deport people who are in the country who haven't committed violent crimes or bad crimes if they're undocumented?
Yes. So I I sympathize very heavily because I just had a brother-in-law who got deported. It's very painful. Um, and so I can see both sides on this matter. I feel because my brother-in-law, he wasn't, he's not a bad gentleman, and I have wonderful nephews and nieces from him and my sister's marriage, and so I very greatly appreciate him. But at the end of the day, when I had to sit down and like kind of think, I had to reassess when that happened. I had to kind of sit down and reassess, like, okay, how do I really feel about this? And I kind of had to, I guess, a realization, not really a realization, but I dug into it more. And so the reason I would support deportation of any illegal immigrant is because of the matter of fact that it's an illegal crossing. And I get it, you have asylum seekers and et
Wait,
cetera, but
wait, you don't think that every violation of a crime should lead to a punishment, correct? Wait, so under your perspective, you think that they should have been deported?
yes, like at the end of the day, I do believe that. Yes.
So, given that like they weren't deported yet, would you tell on them?
No, never. Absolutely not.
Why not?
No, because I'm simply uh, a person. So, for example, all right, I base this off of Christian tenets. In the Bible, the Lord has recommended to us that you kind of keep your nose out of other people's business, unless it's being causing other people harm.
Wait, didn't the Bible say to like treat foreign people who are foreign born the same as people who are native to your country?
Yes,
Like native
yes,
born to your country? So then
yes, it does.
if that's true, well then wouldn't you say that like people who are in the country and documented shouldn't be deported?
No, 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 because the Bible, if we're going to go off my Christian tenets here, which is what I do base a lot of things on, because obviously, how do you not? Um,
I don't use the Bible, but like I'm just
no,
saying if
I
you.
understand that. I'm saying like for me individually, you understand. So, um, going off on, I lost my train of thought. Give me one moment. So we're talking about if you have to treat foreign-born as the same as you. Okay, right. So the Bible also says that a crime will receive, what is done in the dark will be brought to light. So kind of saying that, like, not that it's an evil thing to do it, but going off of that, it's like every crime or everything, every wrongdoing will be just like have justice brought to it, theoretically, right? And so, even though the act of crossing the border is not violent, um, it is still, it's still criminal, and it does say, like, I didn't treat my brother-in-law any differently. So while he was here, I didn't, whenever they offered those bounties or whatever, I never even thought about doing something like that because he's my
So,
brother-in-law,
so,
and even if it's not
so,
my
so
brother-in-law.
what's the reason why they? Okay, so I'll ask you this question: if someone jaywalks, right, should they be punished for it, even if it wasn't a risk to anyone's safety?
I don't. I wouldn't say. I would say that if a peace officer decides to dish out that punishment, they are justified in doing so, but they don't have to.
No, should they?
I don't know how to. I really couldn't answer that because that's
If
because
you
now we're
if
going
you
into.
could determine whether or not they get the ticket, would you give them a ticket?
Hmm. Me personally, I might not know.
No. So just because someone commits a crime does not mean that they should be punished for that crime. It depends on whether or not, it's a threat to people's safety, things like that. Or, it's harmful to our society, things like that.
So the
And
right
you
answer is
can't mention to anything that's a threat to our safety or harmful to our society, right? For someone to come here undocumented, given that they haven't committed a violent crime or bad crime, given that they meet the set of criteria. So if we give them a pathway to citizenship and they do go through the vetting process, right, without having to leave the country because it is the case that they haven't committed a violent crime or bad crime and they have an
Mhm.
incentive to do so, well, then why should they be deported? Why should they have to leave? I think they should be able to stay.
So what I'm trying to iterate here is the idea of, while I may not personally believe that he should, I do not find qualms with the government as an entity who have these laws in place saying, okay, you did it, so now you must. If that makes sense.
What do you mean?
So I'm saying, like, me personally, even though if I was, in charge of this judicial situation and somebody jaywalked in front of me, maybe I wouldn't give them a ticket. All right. But if the government, which has these laws in place, decides that they do want to do that, then who am I to say that they shouldn't?
A person who has a critically thinking brain. right? Like
Right.
you have to think about like the harms that they could have to our society, to other people in general. Because like
As a,
you're imposing when you impose a punishment on someone, that's bad if they didn't do anything wrong, right?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Imposing a punishment on someone is bad if they didn't do anything wrong, correct?
If they didn't do anything wrong, but in this situation, they did
Yeah, in
objectively
this
commit a crime.
situation they didn't do something wrong though. Like again, our system right now, it takes 5 to 7 years on average for people to get to the legal process. If they haven't committed a violent crime or bad crime, they didn't do something so wrong. I think they should be removed from the country. That's ridiculous, right? The current process is ridiculous, and it takes too long for people to get in the country. And I really empathize with the idea that people come here undocumented. And for anyone who's already in the country undocumented, who has not committed a violent crime or bad crime, I don't think they should be deported. I think they should be given a pathway to citizenship. I don't think they should have to leave the country.
I respect that. I can respect that a lot, and I would, if the government said we're not going to deport them, then I, as a citizen, would be okay with that. You know, I personally think that if they do it, I think that it's maybe, I will say in my personal opinion, I think maybe it can be a bit too much, especially people who didn't commit crimes. But I'm not going to sit here and take away the government's authority. And another reason why, so even though maybe you haven't considered this, and I think a lot of people probably haven't when it comes to illegal immigration in general. It has a effect on the economy that is very rarely I see very rarely mentioned. So illegal immigrants, what happens a lot of the time, they come into the country and they'll work for really cheap labor. They'll take a lot less pay than your average American would, right? I mean that's just kind of a known thing, right? So what they end up doing is they receive income, usually untaxed income, right? Because they're illegal. Uh,
They pay
Not
a hundred
always though.
hundred billion dollars in taxes. They'd pay more
Yeah,
taxes if
I'm familiar.
they'd pay more in
Yeah,
taxes if they were given a pathway to citizenship.
right. And we could circle back to that. I don't want to lose my train of thought here though. So one thing that does happen for the majority of the immigrants, I could be mistaken here, but I'm quite certain that the majority of them receive a lot of untaxed income, and then that income goes straight back to their families and relatives in their home
So
country. So that
give them
money
a
is
pathway
leaving
to
the United
citizenship.
States.
Give them a pathway to citizenship.
I agree. We should 100%.
Okay, so then what's the issue?
I was just say we you start talking about how if I would support
The
the
issue is
deportation.
that Donald Trump wants to deport them, which is putting them in a condition where they can't tell authorities about who they are or go through the vetting process because they get deported.
I think that either situation, either what do you call it? Answer is acceptable in my eyes. I would prefer that were given like nonviolent citizens or nonviolent non-citizens were given a pathway to citizenship. I have always been of the mind that our access to citizenship is a little too restrictive. I think it needs to be restrictive, but it's too restrictive, and I think it definitely should be. They should be given an easier access. But I do, going back to like the whole, what do I support about Trump's deportation? I just simply support the idea that if you're an illegal immigrant, regardless, the government has the right and authority to excommunicate you.
Okay, would you support the government deporting Superman?
I don't know, man. I don't know how to answer
Well,
that.
he's in the country undocumented. Would you
I
support
mean,
Superman being deported? And what country would you support him being deported to?
well, if we're talking about the Superman from like Krypton, I think we
Yeah,
should get
from
rid of him.
Krypton.
Yeah, we should get rid of him. Not to another country. We should exterminate him because he's an alien.
You'd exterminate Superman?
He's got laser beam eyes, man. How do you trust that?
Dude, that's diabolical, bro. You just advocated for Superman is crazy. A baby?
A baby? Oh, yeah.
You want a baby Kal-El?
Do we know that he's going to grow up to be a guy with super laser eyes and super
No,
strength?
you know he's gonna be Superman, but he's gonna be good.
I'm too scared of something like that. If it was me, I'd get rid of him, man. That's just me, though. I'm pro humanity. Fuck yeah, kind of thing.
You are Lex Luthor.
I guess I might be, huh?
He's literally Lex Luthor, chat. Please.
I don't even know enough about DC to be honest. I don't even know Lex Luthor's the guy in the robot or whatever.
You got to watch the new movie, bro.
I feel that, but trying to stay on topic. And another thing, another uh, I guess policy of Trump's that I
Dude, what
support
kind of
is
Christian would Superman? What about Jesus? If Jesus were in the country undocumented,
hmm, hmm. If Jesus was in the country undocumented, I don't know because Jesus went to a lot of places
I
undocumented.
don't
So
know. What do you mean he wouldn't go places undocumented? You think
no, he
Jesus?
went a lot of he
Okay,
went a lot of places undocumented,
so if Jesus were in
and
the
then he
country,
became documented.
yeah,
After he started
if
saying that I'm the son of God and everything.
if Jesus came to the country undocumented, would you deport him?
Where all right, let's go back to Trump because I know how to answer
No,
these
answer this question.
hypotheticals.
Answer the question.
Would I deport Jesus, man? I don't think I could. No, because you're asking me would I deport my God? You know what I mean? Like he's the person that I see is like the little
Obviously,
creator
you
of me.
wouldn't deport them. So just because they have come to the country undocumented doesn't mean you would deport them, especially if they weren't a threat to the country in terms of safety, if they weren't a harm to us in terms of our society. So I think that undocumented immigrants, if they haven't committed a violent crime or bad crime, are not a threat to our society, or not a threat or a harm to us. They're actually a benefit. So, I mean, everything that you'd point to as to reason as to why you'd allow for Jesus to stay in the country are also applicable to undocumented immigrants.
Except my literal creator. You
Yeah,
know, so obviously I'm gonna have preference to that.
I know, but like you said, anyone who came to the country undocumented, you'd think that they should be deported. But now
All
you're
right, you
saying that
got
if
me.
you've
Yeah,
come to the country
I didn't.
undocumented, under certain conditions, you shouldn't be deported. And I'm just saying, why don't
My
you
bad. I
extend
didn't
this?
see the future of the Jesus hypothetical. My bad.
No, true though. Like I'm serious. Like I mean, it is like like a literal hypothetical that could happen because he was someone that would go places undocumented. You can't say he wouldn't violate laws. I mean, he literally did violate the laws, so he got.
If he showed up, and was like, yeah. By the way, I'm the Jesus. It's like, okay, you're allowed to stay here because you're the Jesus. This is your earth. Like, how do I tell you no?
Well, I mean, like I don't believe Jesus is God, so, but like
Okay, I respect that, but you're asking me, you know.
I understand. That's exactly why I asked you though, is
So
because
this is kind of a silly argument. Let's go.
it's not a silly argument. It's because I know that like again, given that someone's a good person, you'd let them in the country even if they're undocumented. Because
Somebody in the
you don't
chat.
believe that violating the law in that type of way is so bad insofar as that you wouldn't let someone in the country. Does it make sense? Like you wouldn't think that's reason to deport everyone. So
So
there's some
so
conditions
just
you
to
would say that
clarify,
people shouldn't be deported.
just to clarify real quick, I think that the government has the authority. I would prefer they don't if they're non-violent. I just believe the government has the authority to do it.
Okay, so to clarify, if the government deported Jesus, would you support it?
No.
So okay, so then you just contradicted your prior reasoning.
Yeah, but it's different because you're asking me about my who I believe is my little. Anyway,
I understand, but
let's talk about Trump.
then I'm saying is that there's some conditions if we're true, you wouldn't punish undocumented
Yeah,
immigrants.
because us we as human beings are going to have preferences to things that we think are our creator. I mean, you know what I mean.
What about if it was Mary?
I don't see Mary as a religious figure. She's the mother of Jesus. She's the mother of Jesus. That's all it
Would
is
you
for me.
deport the mother of Jesus?
I think I might would, man. Yeah.
Ah! No way!
Let me
He would
clarify.
deport the mother of Jesus.
Let
That's
me clarify.
diabolical.
I support the authority of the government to do so.
You wait. You okay? So if the government deported the mother of Jesus, you'd support it.
I would prefer they didn't, but if
What
they
if she was pregnant? Yeah, so like technically you
can
would
we
be
talk
deporting.
about Trump now,
Technically
man?
you would be deporting Jesus.
Are we talking about Trump is this a Christian debate or a
Like
political debate?
if she were pregnant,
Is this a Christian debate
would you
or
deport
a
her?
Trump debate?
I promise you, I'm asking you something relevant.
This doesn't feel relevant.
Oh, you're so scared now to answer this question. I can see you're nervous.
Oh no. I'm just having a good time, man. Somebody in the chat said that I consider Trump my
Wait,
savior. I want to
hold on.
clarify
If
something.
no, if Mary was pregnant with Jesus, in that circumstance, would you deport Mary, or would you support the deportation of Mary?
I will support the government's authority to do so
So you would support the government deporting Mary, the mother of Jesus, pregnant with baby Jesus.
because I believe in the legality of law. Yes,
The legality of law. What?
like the enforceability of a law. Yes, even if I think
Yeah, but you didn't believe it when it was in reference to Jesus when he was like apparently older, but like when he's in the womb, then you don't care about him. You would deport Jesus if he were in the womb. So wait, are you saying that he wasn't a person while in the womb?
no, I'm not saying that.
Okay, so then why would you say that you would deport him if he were in the womb?
If we're all right, so if we're talking about like if this is the Mary, we know for a fact that it's
Now look
Jesus
at
in
him
her.
backpedaling, backpedal, 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 backpedal.
Yeah, because it's a silly debate, man. It's a funny
It's not a silly
debate, and I
debate.
want.
It's interesting because it does demonstrate something very effective here. Like
What does it
this
demonstrate?
argument is super effective, dude.
So what? To what?
It demonstrates that there are some conditions where you wouldn't deport undocumented immigrants.
And as I've said, me personally, I would prefer they didn't. I do believe in the application or process to allow them to come in legally and to make it easier for them to do so because why shouldn't they? But when it comes to I think I'm getting a little bit frustrated repeating myself. I just believe that in the government's authority to enforce their laws. That's it.
I understand, but I think that's like a ridiculous position there,
I
right?
mean, I can respect that you think that's
Wait.
ridiculous,
So it,
but that's just
and hold up. So then I'll ask you this question: would you say that if you were referencing the laws that officials had in reference to Jewish people, like would you lie to officials to protect your Jewish friends in your attic?
would I lie to not
Would you
officials to
violate
protect
the
your
law?
friends?
Yeah.
I would not presume to take the stance that I could be able to make that decision because the people who went through that, who actually experienced that traumatic event in history, it would if I were to choose one or the other side, I'm basically saying that whoever the other side is, their
So so
experience is
so then here's
invalid.
the question: would you protect your Jewish friends by lying?
I try really hard not to lie. So you're asking me a
I
difficult question.
understand, but given that you were forced into a condition, either lie or they end up. What would you do?
Man, Parker, I don't know, man. I can't like I
You
said, I can't
don't
presume.
know?
I don't
Dude, what
because
is
I
this,
can't
Jordan
presume.
Peterson? I'm sorry. Obviously, you lie to save your Jewish friend's life.
I wouldn't presume to know the situation. You know what I'm or to because the people who lived through that, like how can I say that I would choose better than anyone else
Would
in that
you would you
situation?
would you support enforcing the law?
Would I support probably not.
Probably.
Probably not because they
Why
were
only
fascists. They
why
were
only
executing millions of
probably?
people.
Okay, and also so again, you don't say that you support enforcing the law in all scenarios. It's depending on whether or not it like is a good law.
I'm referring so we're talking about my government, the United States of America.
Yeah, I'm confused
Yeah.
though. What's your
Who are not gassing and exterminating millions and
wait,
millions of
wait, wait.
people.
There were okay throughout history. There were laws about runaway enslaved people,
Yes.
right? So like,
And
would you break the law in that circumstance in order to protect someone who was like an enslaved person?
you saying like if they fled to my house?
Yeah, they fled. They're running away, and they fled, and you know where they are.
I would like to believe that I might would, but I wasn't alive back then. Parker,
No,
the
I'm
thing I'm
asking
trying
you,
to
given what you know today. Oh my God, I'm asking you, given who you are as a person today. What do you mean you don't know?
I think I would because they're
Dude, I think I would. It's a yes, you would. Oh my God, bro.